Hey everyone, Dismus here with a new build video for my Magicka DK that you might have seen in my latest PvP video. If you haven't checked that out yet, I strongly recommend doing so to get an idea of what this build is capable of and how it plays. This build is a high damage Destro Resto one with a damage shield and healing based defense. This is not a perm block build, so line of sight and positioning are really important. The build works very well in all forms of PvP, from 1 vs 1 to group vs group, from zero deal to duels and battlegrounds. With that out of the way, let's get started. Starting with the gear, I'm using 2 pieces of Scoria, both impenetrable. This set just adds a lot of burst damage and synergizes well with the class. 5 pieces of Burning Spellweave, fairly standard for Magicka DKs. This is where most of our damage comes from, and it'll be proccing pretty much all the time. Once procced, the buff will also carry on to our off bar, so it's not necessary to have 5 pieces there. All armor pieces should be impenetrable, and the Staff Nurhound with Shock Enchant for minor vulnerability procs. Though you can also run Prismatic Enchant as well, as there's a lot of vampires currently in zero deal. On Jewelry, use spell damage on all. 5 pieces of Eyes of Mara. This is where the build starts to differ a bit from other Magicka DK builds out there. I run Eyes of Mara because our main spammable defense will be Healing Ward, and reducing its cost by 502 is obviously really strong. When you're fully on defensive, it's like having almost 1000 Magicka regen. But that's not all. Eyes of Mara also reduces the cost of our Resto ulti, which is a real lifesaver, and we only need to set on the off bar. It also has very solid 2, 3 and 4 set bonuses. Overall, a really strong set for a build using Healing Ward as its defense. The armor pieces should once again be impenetrable, and the rest of stuff should be infused with weapon damage enchant. As food, I use Clockwork Citrus Fillet, which I think is best in slot for all Magicka builds currently. And as potions, I use immovable ones with Magicka. The Mundus for this build is Apprentice. Alright, skills. On the Destro bar I run Empowering Chains. Probably the strongest gap closure in the game, as it's undodgeable, grants you major empower on the next whip or leap, major expedition for 6 seconds, and is fire damage on top of it all, meaning it benefits from downward passive, can proc Burning Spellweave, and has a 20% chance of proccing Burning status effect. All on a class with low mobility by default and mostly melee based damage. So in a world where Stamblades, who already have good mobility, usually slot Ambush or Crit Rush, you'd be quite crazy not to slot this skill as a melee Magicka DK. Second skill on this bar is Burning Embers, a really strong dot that helps us pressure enemies. It's also undodgeable and can act as a burst heal. It also helps in proccing Scoria. Third skill is Elemental Drain. This is a key skill for our sustain and also increases our damage against the target. It also activates Ancient Knowledge Destro passive for 8% more single target damage just by being on the bar. Fourth skill is Fossilize, probably the strongest CC in the game. Unblockable, undodgeable and roots the target, which means we are pretty much guaranteed to get a power lash when comboed with Flameless. This is not just an offensive skill, you can use it as defense as well. Often it actually mitigates more damage when you CC a player rather than when you cast a Healing Ward. It's also good to cast it after a Healing Ward in order to have a better chance at getting a heal from the ward when it expires. A typical defensive rotation would be Healing Ward, Fossilize, Flamelash, Powerlash. Fifth skill on the bar is Flamelash. This is the main spammable ability with this build and becomes really strong when you hit a CC'd target with it, putting that target off balance and giving you extra damage and a really strong heal over time on the next whip, which also becomes free to cast. This helps us in staying on the offensive and keeping that damage rolling in. It also has a 20% chance of proccing the Burning status effect on each cast. As ultimate here we've got Ferocious Sleep as a strong finisher. It can also be used right off the bat when you first go in with Empowering Chains, as it gets the plus 20% damage from Empower. You then whip once or twice, and if it was a squishy build like a medium armor stamina 1 or a light armor without a shield up, that target is likely dead. Other way to combo it is by getting a target to around 10k health and then going Fossilize Leap to guarantee the leap doesn't get blocked and the target dies. You also get a strong shield when you cast this ultimate, meaning it's usually safe to just keep dealing damage after using it. You can also run Meteor on this bar and combo it with Fossilize, but I like the Leap version better because of the shield and lower cost. On the Resto bar I'm running Volatile Armor, a really strong skill that gets you 8% more mitigation, and often in conjunction with Flames of Oblivion kills melee attackers on its own, or gets them to low enough health to get bursted down, without you even having to focus them. Probably the best part about the skill, however, is that it puts another pretty strong dot on everyone within 10 meter radius when cast. This cast breaks invisibility and makes sure it's extremely difficult for Nightblades to cloak around you. The dot as well as the damage return part of the skill also procs Coria all the time. Flames of Oblivion. This skill adds a lot of delayed burst damage to the build and helps us put pressure on targets. It also passively increases the crit chance of every skill on this bar. Third skill here is Healing Ward, or Main Defense. This is the only damage shield in the game that scales not only with Magicka but also with spell damage, meaning it gets all the benefit from our spell damage focused gear. Fourth skill here is Molten Armaments. This isn't really a heavy attack build, so you can and should use them at times, but I still think it's better to get the Major Sorcery from this skill rather than slotting Degeneration from Mage's Guild. This skill gives you almost double the duration of Major Sorcery compared to Degeneration, and the dot from Degeneration is too weak to be worth considering. It takes one Flame Lash to deal the damage the dot deals over 14.4 seconds, so if you can cast one more Flame Lash thanks to only having to refresh your Major Sorcery buff half as often, it's already worth it. Casting Molten Armaments also helps immensely with our stamina sustain, and can be used to ensure you always have stamina for a CC break. Fifth skill is somewhat optional. You can run Engulf in Flames here to get even more damage and Scoria procs. Very good when there's a lot of melee stamina builds around. Or you can run Dragonfire Scale here if you feel there's a bit too many snipers and overload sorcerers around. I guess Mist Form could also be an option here. As ultimate here I run Life Giver. So this is probably another thing that raises some eyebrows. But let me explain why this morph is actually better for this build. When you cast Life Giver, it gives you a free mutagen, combat prayer and a healing ward. This mutagen will tick for 15 seconds after the ultimate has ended, and if you happen to fall to low health during those 15 seconds, it will very often save you with the heal and debuff removal. That's not all though, it also gives you 8 seconds of minor berserk with the combat prayer, which in terms of value is actually very close to 10 seconds of 15% crit damage. On average, Light Champion gives you only around 2.5% more damage with this build's crit chance. If your build has less than 27% crit chance, then Life Giver will actually grant more damage on average. So in general, I think Life Giver is a much better choice for a solo and small scale player, mostly thanks to the free mutagen, though I'd probably pick Light Champion if I played with a larger group. I'm also stage 3 vampire with this build, because the damage reduction works really well with Healing Word. This is what the stats look like with this build. And here's how you should allocate champion points. Note that while the 75 points in Thaumaturge might seem overkill, it's necessary to get the Exploiter passive for 10% more damage on Power Lash, which is a big boost to the burst damage of this build. There is only one race I would recommend for this build, and that is Dunmer. Any other with all this fire damage would be suboptimal. And that does it for the build video. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Until next time, bye.